Ken Trahan with Lenny Vangilder. It's our First NBC Bank Weekend Review, brought to you by First NBC Bank with 35 locations throughout metropolitan New Orleans and growing. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNOLA.com. SEC Media Days getting underway, and it's always a carnival, a circus, a wild ride. Everybody's waiting for the quote to use. Somebody's going to say something that's going to be top headline material everywhere. For the most part, it'll be close to the vest, but the bottom line is that this gets an enormous amount of scrutiny.
It does. You know what I'm going to miss this year? No Steve Spurrier.
Right.
He's interesting item I read. This is the first time, I think, since 1989 that either Steve Spurrier or Mark Richt has not been at SEC Media Day. They might show up, but they're not going to be on the dais talking about their teams. But it's you hit. I think you hit the right word when you said circus. It's 4 days. In my mind, the biggest thing is it signals the beginning of college football season. We won't kick off for 7 weeks till Labor Day weekend, but now come your media days. The SEC's the first one. We'll have them for the next 2 or 3 weeks. First week of August, we'll get into practice, and before you know it, toe will meet leather, and it's on.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it, and we know Les Miles will say something unusual and otherwise say nothing, but that's all good. We look forward to it. That's how we know it's close to LSU football, right? So we'll look forward to it. Speaking of football, big weekend for the Saints and the Saints Hall of Fame in Biloxi this past weekend. 4 events, golf tournament at Fallen Oak, beautiful golf course. Also a Shuckers game Friday night where Bobby Hebert, Morton Anderson, and Ricky Jackson threw out first pitches, except for the fact that Anderson didn't throw out a first pitch. He kicked one right over the plate, outside corner for a strike from 60 feet 6 inches with Hebert holding. By the way, Hebert threw a strike. Ricky, our dear Ricky, threw one about 37 feet and said his shoulder was hurting.
We're going to need video of that for the first SportsNOLA TV. You see, we may need that. That, by the way, coming to your TV sets very soon. The new season. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Got to see it. Saturday, great event. Saints Experience was a big hit with the kids Saturday morning, and of course the Saints Hall of Fame Roadshow. I think the line's still there, frankly, at MGM Park for all the guys signing and taking pictures as well. So it was a great weekend, and thanks to Jason Trosclair, Michael Hebert, Jay Romig with the Saints for a job well done. We move on, and of course we talk about the Pelicans, who had a press conference scheduled for Monday, which they canceled, all about free agency. Don't know why, but we'll see what happens. That said, Summer League basketball is going on, and don't put too much stock in it. That's what we always say. It's guys that are playing against guys that aren't going to be playing in the league, so don't get caught up in it. We do know that Chuck Diallo is athletic. We can see that based on his length, his ability to run, leap, his ability to affect shots. We know that Buddy Hield can shoot, although he struggled with his shot until the fourth quarter against Utah. So those two things we know are absolutes, and those two guys are going to be around.
You would think so. And as you look at the Pelicans, look, I think you're looking at guys to maybe bring to camp. You're looking at guys on other rosters maybe that you're interested in that you might want to bring to camp who could fill that 14th, 15th spot on a roster perhaps. And the other thing I learned this weekend is don't put a mic in front of D'Angelo Russell after a game-winning shot. I mean, that was insane. But that's, yes. But all in all, look, wins and losses don't mean an awful lot. The one thing you would like to do is maybe win a couple of games when you get to the knockout round portion of it, so you get a little bit more time to see some of your own players and some of the other players that are on your roster in terms of what they may bring to the table.
Yeah, Ben Simmons was pretty impressive watching him this past weekend as well, working on that jump shot, I might add, but that's all good. And then, of course, where baseball is concerned, it's All-Star Weekend across the globe with pretty much every level, futures games, All-Star games on the minor league level, including in AAA where the Zephyrs reside, and on the major league level. And I know Alex Bregman caught your eye.
He did. Very close to a cycle in the futures game. I even had a laugh about it when he missed the opportunity. Didn't just catch my eye. I think he caught a number of people's eye. Seeing what Ken Rosenthal put out there, the most impressive thing he heard was one scout said, Bregman's ready right now. Well, what will the Astros do? I don't know that they're going to be in a rush, but if they're not in a rush, then Bregman comes to Zephyr Field Thursday through Sunday as Fresno is in town, start of a Zephyrs homestand after the All-Star break. So I would say definitively it's your last chance in New Orleans to see Alex Bregman in a minor league uniform coming up Thursday through Sunday.
Finally, speaking of baseball, Tulane hiring a coach over the weekend, last Friday, and a gentleman that comes from Vanderbilt where they won a national championship, played for another, coach pitching, and, of course, recruited. So kind of hard to argue with the hire. Fits the private school mold. although some people are still quite upset that they didn't hire a guy with Tulane ties, because there were obviously 3 of those that had those ties that were qualified.
Yeah, and look, I think if it's equal, if you got 2 guys that you're very close, certainly you lean towards the guy that has ties to your program. But as I've said from the start, you can't underestimate that value of having worked at a private school. This is not football. This is not basketball. College baseball is a totally different animal, and how you manage those 11.7 scholarships across a 35-man roster. And I talked about it in my story this weekend at SportsNOLA.com. That said, Vanderbilt is not Tulane. Vanderbilt's had the number 1 recruiting class for basically 3 or 4 years running now, going into the future, because they've got some things at their advantage in terms of being able to sign guys, getting some academic help. Does Travis Jewett need that at Tulane? Hopefully he's got the commitment to being able to do that, because it's not something that's been there previously, and that is the type of thing that if Tulane provides that to Jewett, it will give Tulane the ability to move up to that elite level. They've been a very good program for a long, long time. Can they be like a Vanderbilt that's a national championship contender year in, year out? That would be a big help.
And that's a really good point as we close, because if you talk to Rick Jones, he'll always point to the legislative scholarship program that really benefited his program for years and then was cut back, which really hurt them. And, of course, junior college transfer rule, the whole deal. So you need some of those opportunities with a private school where the tuition is very high.
It is. And, obviously the whole legislative thing is still out there, but it's not something that the school can have any input on. Guys have to go get it on their own. And sometimes that can offer you the opportunity to get somebody for free if they're able to go out and get it on their own. Of course, it just applies to guys in Louisiana. That said, look, there are a number of other things, whether it's, traditional financial aid, it's academic aid, whatever it is, that there has to be, some kind of preference to those recruited student athletes out there. Not to discount, the regular student, I don't want to say regular, but the student who's not participating in athletics, but still to be able to compete, especially in baseball. You don't need it as much in the other sports because they're counter sports. They're basically, you could field a full roster full of scholarship guys. You can't do that in baseball. So if you can get that done and, put yourself basically on equal footing with some of the other privates like the Vanderbilts, the Rices, the Stanfords out there, that gives you a chance to move up to that elite level.
That's our First NBC Bank Weekend Review, brought to you by First NBC Bank, with 35 locations throughout Southeast Louisiana and into the Florida Panhandle. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNOLA.com. Lenny, have a great week.
All right, we'll see you later this week.
You have a great week as well. Until next time, thanks for joining us, and God bless you.